الله 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 الله
فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه. فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه. فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه.
سلام يا أخي ويا مسيحي وخليفتي وصاحب لبائي قد أذنت لك فدخل عليهم تحت الكساء. قال عليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بطرتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء. إلى السماء وقال اللهم إنها وقال واستكبر لهم لحميم دمهم دمي يهلكهم ما يهلكهم ويحزن مما يحزنهم أنا خارج لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن صاربهم وعقوبا لمن عادهم ومحبا لمن أحبهم إنهم مني فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك عليك وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فلك السماوات ولا الشمس المضيء ولا فلك اليدون ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبتها فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة ومحمد فذهبت لك فثبت الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والذكرى ويقول لك عزتي وشرفتي إني أوحدت الصلاة ولا أرض ولا ملك يدور بل أوفى يسير إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم فقد أتنا لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذنوني يا رسول الله فقال رسول الله عليك السلام يا أمينا وكي الله نعم قد أذنت لك فدخل جبرائيل تحت الكساء ولو كان إليكم يقول يا رسول الله أخبرني عن جلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله الذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني برسالة خبرنا هذا في محكم من محافل أهل الأرض وفي جمع شيعتنا ومحبنا ونزلت عليكم وعلا وحفتهم الملائكة واستغفرتهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا الله فزنا وحاصر الشيعة من الله. محمد وآل محمد صلى الله عليه السلام. ورب الكعبة فقل يا علي واستقاني بالوصال المسير ما ذكر خبرنا فلا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع شيعتنا وفيه مهموم إلا وفرج الله عنه فلا مهموم إلا وكشف الله همه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله فرجه. فقال لي جون عليه السلام إذا هو الطائف والسعيد في الدنيا والآخرة برب الكعبة. الله الله उसके बाद मौलाना के साथ इंटरेक्टिव सेशन होगा कि लोग सवाल पूछ सकेंगे, मौलाना उसका जवाब देंगे। कल की मजलिस के बाद कल सैटरडे नाइट है, इंशाल्लाह हम लोग क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन मौलाना के साथ इंटरेक्टिव
जन्नतुल बकी की खूबसूरत तामीर के लिए आवाज़ बुलंद सलवात।
For the mixing of the appearance of the poster, the savior, the avenger, budget of the Hassan al-Askari, reside, allow, salawat. What greatest and most influential scholars of Shia? It's an individual by the name of Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Nu'man, otherwise known as Shaykh al-Mufid. This scholar was born 7 years after the end of the lesser occupation. In other words, his closeness and proximity to the time of our 12th Imam is quite noteworthy, because the closer you are to that time, the greater the possibility that access to the traditions and narrations and hadith of the Ahlul Bayt will be untainted. It is pure and authentic. This scholar was a student of Ibn Babawayh, also known as Shaykh al-Saduq. He was also a student of Ibn Junayd al-Iskafi, as well as a student of Ibn Quluwayh. Who was Ibn Quluwayh? He is the author of the famous work known as Kamil Siyara, an incredibly important work in which the author compiles traditions that speak about the merits, virtues, and etiquettes of ziyarah, starting with the Holy Prophet and ending with the 12th Imam. Although the bulk of the book is dedicated to the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein, the traditions in the book are highly authenticated and reliable, and has been a great resource that our scholars have referred to throughout this time, for over 1,000 years. Al-Shaykh al-Mufid has a book called Al-Amani. What is Al-Amani? This is important because not only are we trying to benefit from these works, but also become acquainted with them. And I'll explain why. Al-Amani essentially means the dictation. And what this was, essentially, our scholars would have their classes and they would conduct programs customized for their students, but they also had public speeches. And these speeches would be held sometimes in individuals' homes. They would gather in a house in a suburb of Baghdad, and they would, instead of reciting poetry and things that we do nowadays, there's nothing wrong with those, but as scholars, they would recite and dictate traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. Al-Shaykh al-Mufid has an amali. Al-Shaykh al-Tusi has an amali. Al-Shaykh al-Tusi was a student of Shaykh al-Mufid. Just like As-Sayyid al-Murtada Alam al-Huda, he was also a student of Shaykh al-Mufid. Again, this highlights the significance and the importance that Shaykh al-Mufid occupied in our history. So they would dictate these traditions to the general mass, to people who had gathered in that particular home. And what those people did afterwards was that they compiled those traditions in book format. And so they became known as Al-Amali. Now, Shaykh al-Mufid had these gatherings over a period of time. Specifically, the first majlis, and so the book is categorized and organized in majalis. So you have al-majlis al-awwal, and it contains 5 or 6 ahadith. Al-majlis al-thani contains 6 or 7 ahadith, and so on. The first of these majalis was held in the holy month of Ramadan, and it was in somebody's house in one of the suburbs of Baghdad, where Shaykh al-Mufid was stationed. So what I'd like to do is read a hadith from Al-Amali, and hopefully we can explain it and try and benefit from it. The hadith I've selected is hadith number 5 in majlis number 6, the 6th majlis. Shaykh al-Mufid narrates using his chain of transmission from a man called Abu Khalid al-Kabuli. Who was Abu Khalid al-Kabuli? An incredibly influential companion of Imam Zayn al-Abidin Ali ibn Hussein. In fact, not only was Abu Khalid al-Kabuli, who was originally from Afghanistan, hence the last name Kabuli, not only was he influential and close to the Imam, even though he had a patchy history. He started out not being a 12er Shia. At first, he believed that Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah was the rightful successor to Imam al-Hussein. And he stayed with Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah for a lengthy period of time, 10 years or so, until he went and discovered Imam al-Sajjad. There was discussions between him and the Imam, and eventually Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah was encouraged to go and engage in a debate with Imam al-Sajjad. So there is discussion about Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah, whether he actually claimed to be the Imam after Imam al-Hussein, or was that just a cover for Imam al-Sajjad so that he wouldn't be exposed to the wrath and the persecution of the government at the time. Remember, Yazid was still in power when Imam al-Sajjad became a divinely appointed leader. And so there is a discussion about Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah and his character. But irrespective of that, Abu Khalid al-Kabuli left Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah, went to Imam al-Sajjad, and became one of his disciples, not just a companion. And this is a word that's used in the actual hadiths of the Ahlul Bayt. Because the narration says that on the day of judgment, a caller will say, Ayna hawariyu Ali ibn Hussein. And this is an important hadith which lists all of the top companions of the Imams. Because the call is made on the day of judgment, where are the disciples of the Imams? Beginning with the Holy Prophet, Amir al-Mu'mineen, and so on and so forth. The disciples of Imam al-Sajjad include Abu Khalid al-Kabuli. So, very important character indeed. He is the one who narrates this hadith. Listen carefully. عن أبي خالد الكابولي And Ali ibn Hussein, he says, I heard Imam Sajjad say, Ya Aba Khalid, لَتَأْتِيَنَّ فِتَنٌ كَقِطَعِ اللَّيْلِ الْمُظْلِمِ. I'll read the hadith and translate. لا ينجو إلا من أخذ الله ميثاقه. أولئك مصابيح الهدى وينابيع العلم ينجيهم الله من كل فتنة. Imam Sajjad says to Abu Khalid al-Kabuli that there will come a time in which trials, tests, tribulations will attack you just like, and they resemble the darkest of nights. In other words, there's going to be confusion. There's going to be bewilderment. There's going to be people who are lost. Because naturally, we can't see in the dark. And these trials and tribulations are like the darkness in which a person is unable to see their way. The Imam then says, La yanju, the only people who will survive this darkness are who? Illa man akhadha Allahu mithaqa, are the ones from whom Allah has secured a pledge, commitment, a solid and firm step. People who are grounded in their faith. Those who are shaky in their beliefs. Those who are unsure. Those who simply follow the flock and follow what's trending. And those who attempt to navigate their path in the darkness by following someone else who is also in darkness, they will perish. The Imam says, the individuals who will survive this period, this era, are the ones that have given Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a solid commitment, a pledge of allegiance. Ulaika, the Imam then describes these individuals. May Allah make us amongst them. It says, Ulaika masabihul huda. Not only do these people survive the darkness, but they will become beacons of light for others to follow. وَيَنَابِيعُ الْعِلْمِ, and they are springs of knowledge. يُنْجِيهِمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ كُلِّ فِتْنَةٍ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help them survive. He will salvage them. He will save them from every dark tribulation. Allah will help them. They've given a pledge. Why this is important is you have somebody who's already knowledgeable and grounded. There's not much to fear when it comes to these individuals. But then you have people who may not have the necessary knowledge, who may not already be learned, but they have devoted themselves to seeking knowledge. They have submitted their will to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His vicegerents, prophets, and their successors. These individuals also don't have much to fear. Because once you have exhibited the utmost level of submission, then you have nothing to fear. Because when there is a dark tribulation that encompasses you, at that point you won't have a problem in following the guidance of scholars. If the scholars, let's say in this day and age, the Maraj, if they say this is how you're supposed to conduct yourself, I'll say, yes, sir. I don't have a problem with that. But if I'm the kind of person who has to question everything, who has to debate with the scholars, there's no problem in asking questions. We encourage people to ask questions. I was saying this to somebody this last night. I said, if you ask questions, it means you're inquisitive, it means you're a seeker of knowledge. As Amir al-Mu'mineen famously said to Humayd ibn Ziyad, you've all heard this hadith, and there are only three types of people. Number one, alim al-Rabbani. A learned, pious, godly scholar. Some ulama say that alim al-Rabbani are the Ahlul Bayt. This doesn't include our scholars. It's the Ahlul Bayt. Or it could be that the Ahlul Bayt are the most sublime manifestations of alim al-Rabbani, while we also have scholars who can be correctly described as alim al-Rabbani, godly scholars. You see the light emanating from their face. That's one type. The other type is a person who is a seeker of knowledge. Someone who's actively looking for salvation. وَمُتَعَلِّمٌ عَلَى سَبِيلٍ نَجَاةٍ, the Imam says. A seeker of knowledge who's trying to save themselves. Whether it's a man or a woman, young or old, they're trying to survive these rough waters. They're trying to swim by seeking knowledge. The Imam says, and the third type is hamajul ra'a, atba'u kulli na'am. Have you ever seen a cow or a sheep that's not clean, and so it has all these flies that buzz over and around its nostrils? The Imam says the third type is like these flies. They lack knowledge and they lack the commitment to seek knowledge. They don't care. They're busy with feeding their stomachs. They're busy with providing pleasure to their bodies. They're busy trying to earn a living, trying to make money, trying to live in this life. They don't care about salvation in the afterlife. These are hamajun ra'a. Atba'u kulli na'am. You will see that they're the first to flock to any caller they find. Everybody who raises a flag and says, let's create this little cult, they join up. They're always looking for affiliation, for belonging. They're looking for people that they can follow. Atba'u kulli na'am. Imam then says, the reason for that is because they have not been illuminated with the light of knowledge. And they have not rested their back on a solid pillar. They're always changing their minds. Have you ever met people like that? One day they're pro this, the other day they're anti this. One day they're in this group, the other day they're in that group. They're absolutely confused. They don't know where they belong. And so whatever is more shiny and glamorous and interesting and controversial, you'll see them there. They're always looking for controversy. They're always looking for those who are loudest, not those who possess actual knowledge. So the Imam says, don't be one of these people. In this hadith that I read to you from Mahdi al-Fi, Imam Zayn al-Abidin says to Abu Khalid al-Kamil, those who have a commitment and have given a pledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God will save them. Because at that moment of confusion, they have no problem following the wise counsel and guidance of those who are guided and those who possess godly. Now, the Imam is warning us about a time that's filled with darkness. Where do we find a parallel to this in the Holy Quran? We find it in the story of Prophet Nuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes a people who are so arrogant and stubborn that even though Prophet Nuh preached to them for 950 years, imagine, 950 years, do you know how many people actually believed in him at the end of that period? 100. 100. In other words, an average of 10 people followed this prophet of God a year. Just 10. And so, at the end of this phase, which which Prophet Nuh preached for 1,000 years, or almost 1,000, he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at what he said. He said, Allah quotes him in the Quran, وَقَالَ نُوحٌ رَبِّ لَا تَذَرْ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ دَيَّارًا. Oh Allah, I ask you to bring down such a chastisement, punishment, that not a single one of them remains. Not one. Had every right to do this. 1,000 years of preaching and all he got is 100 people? Destroy them all. إِنَّكَ إِن تَذَرْهُمْ, oh Allah, if you leave them, يُضِلُّ عِبَادَكَ. Not just that they will die as disbelievers, they will be the cause of deviation for others. They will deviate other people. So destroy them. ضِلُّ عِبَادَكَ وَلَا يَلِدُوا إِلَّا فَاجِرًا كَفَّارًا. Not only will they deviate others, but every time they have children, their children are exactly like them. So, oh Allah, destroy them all. So, the divine commandment descends. وَاصْنَعِ الْفُلْكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا وَوَحْيِنَا وَلَا تُخَاطِبْنِي فِي الْكِتَابِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if that's the case, then build the ark. With our guidance, build it, and do not speak with me. فِالَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا إِنَّهُمْ مُغْرَقُونَ. Don't even talk to me anymore about the oppressors, for they will all drown. This is in Surah Hud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then describes the state in which Prophet Nuh was, how oppressed he was. He said, وَمَا آمَنَ مَعَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. Only a small group of people believed. As we said, the hadith tells us that there were only 100. So everyone perished. The sky began to rain heavily. Water began to spring from the earth. And I don't know if you've seen a flood and how quickly it can develop. What they call flash flood. It happens within 20 minutes of heavy rainfall. Imagine if it's not just rainfall, but also water originating from the earth. All these springs opening up, and it became the biggest flood humanity had ever witnessed to that day and until this day. Everyone perished. So much so that the humans that we see today are all descendants of Noah and the 100 people who joined him in the ark. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ذُرِّيَّةَ مَنْ حَمَلْنَا مَعَ نُوحٍ إِنَّهُ كَانَ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. You are the children of Noah and his companions. Which is why Noah is also referred to as Abul Bashar. Adam is the first Abul Bashar. He's the father of humanity. Noah is also Abul Bashar, which is one of the similarities these two prophets have. Amirul Mu'mineen, Khalil. Why do you think? Is it a coincidence that Noah and Adam would be buried next to Amirul Mu'mineen? These three are the fathers of humanity. Rasulullah himself said, Ya Ali, Ana wa ant Aba. You and I are the fathers of this thing. Which is why when you go to Najaf, you feel at home. There is a sense of serenity. You feel you belong here. Because these are your fathers. So, everyone and every living creature died. That's why you have to carry the animals, right? Every living creature. They all have. Listen to what Allah says again in Surah Hud. وَهِيَ تَجْرِي بِهِمْ فِي مَوْجٍ كَالْجِبَالِ. The ark began to sail amid mountain-like waves. I haven't seen this myself, except perhaps in videos or pictures, but I've seen people who survived these rough seas. people who seek asylum in some countries, especially Australia, when they, even though the distance between the farthest Indonesian islands and Christmas Island, which is within the territorial waters of Australia, it's not too far. It only takes them about 2 days of boat ride to get there. But the way they describe these mountain-like waves is truly terrifying. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the Ark of Noah sailed in the midst of these mountain-like waves. وَنَادَى نُوحٌ. As soon as Nuh saw this, he remembered his son. وَنَادَى نُوحٌ. وَكَانَ نُوحٌ ابْنَهُ وَكَانَ فِي مُحْسِنٍ. He saw from a distance. And he told him, Ya bunayya, my son, board the ark with us. وَلَا تَكُنْ مَعَ الْكَافِرِينَ. I want you to draw 100 red lines under this statement. And remember, because he said, come back to it. Ya bunayya, my son, board with us. Embark the ark with us. وَلَا تَكُنْ مَعَ الْكَافِرِينَ. And don't be among the disbelievers or with the disbelievers. How did he respond, his son? Like every arrogant person who places their hope in things other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he responded by saying, قَالَ سَآوِي إِلَىٰ جَبَلٍ يَعْصِمُنِي. No, I don't need to embark with you. I will go and climb this very, very tall mountain. We have traditions, by the way, which describe where the mountain is located. And that I don't want to get into them now because it will open a whole Pandora's box. But the hadith tell us that he climbed this mountain, which was the tallest on earth. He went up there. Obviously, when you're at the top of a mountain that's the tallest on earth, highest summit, you think you're immune. What's a little flood going to do to me? قال سآوي إلى جبل يعصمني من الماء. He says to him, قال لا عاصم اليوم. This is God's command. This is God's chastisement and adab. Nothing can protect you from this. إلا من رحم, except those that Allah has bestowed His mercy upon them. In other words, those who are with me, those who seek refuge in my ark. وحال بينهما الموج فكان من المغرقين. Suddenly, this massive wave came and separated between Noah and his son became one of those drowned. Brothers and sisters, going back to the hadith that I mentioned earlier, we live in a time of darkness. I can list examples until Fajr of things that have confused us as a community. Forget other people. It's easy to look at others and say, Alhamdulillah ala ni'mat al-Islam. Thank God I'm a Muslim. Thank God I don't do what they do. The problem isn't in the things that have marred other communities. The problem is the things that have confused us, but we don't even know that we're confused. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he said to him, Ya Zurara, Shaitan wants nothing to do with others. He's done with them. He doesn't have a problem with them. All he needs to do is just one whack of the finger and all follow him. But on some of the his entire focus, his entire dedication is to try and entrap you and your companion. You follow us. And again, I can list a lot of examples, but I think you're intelligent enough to think of issues that have bewildered us as followers of you. Things that don't seem quite clear. And it's in this day and age, brothers and sisters, where people resort to seeking answers from ChatGPT or asking individuals who lack the expertise, who don't have the solid knowledge base required to provide guidance to us in this day and age, that you find confusion completely taking over our lives. That's why parents, you have different kinds of parents, right? You have the kind that doesn't really care about their children's moral upbringing. And that doesn't mean that they don't care at all whether their children have any moral compass. They do. But they prioritize other things over their morality, over their values. Or they have a whole other set of values which they're happy for their children to adopt as long as they're successful in getting a degree, as long as their children are successful in securing a career for themselves, as long as they can earn good money. They don't really care about other things. They overlook those moral predicaments that their children face every single day because they have other priorities. This is one kind of parent. Then you have parents who actually care about their children's moral upbringing, but they don't know what to do. They see their children going left and right. They see their children, for instance, spending endless hours online, scrolling, nonstop. And the algorithm is providing them with more images and more videos and more content to keep their minds completely numb. They don't know what to do about it. They see their children spending endless hours playing video games. They don't even know what happens in these video games. They don't know what kind of values and subliminal messages are being fed into their vulnerable minds. They have no clue. They're completely confused. Just the other day, somebody came up to me and he said that some kids in our family were playing this game where they speak to total strangers. And they have this FaceTime with them. They speak to them, there's a video chat, and they talk to these complete strangers. I forgot what the name of the app was. And he said, we need to do something about this. And of course, the children have no clue because the child is only 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. And this is the culture they've been brought up in. This is all berated at school or on university campuses. Of course, they have no clue. It's your responsibility as a parent to ensure that they're not contaminated with all this stuff. It's your job, it's your responsibility. This is why Rasulullah said in this famous hadith, he said, Waylun, woe unto, Waylun, لأبناء آخر الزمان من آبائهم. Woe unto the children of the latter days, from whom? From society? From the media? From the internet? No, from their parents. So they say, Ya Rasulullah, min ābā'ihim wal mushrikeen. Is it because their parents are idolaters or polytheists or kuffar? The Prophet said, no. The parents are not kuffar, but they have a completely upended value system. These parents do not teach, the Prophet says, their children, they don't teach them their religious values. And if their children try to follow their religion, the first people to obstruct their path and stop them is their parents. What are you doing praying all the time? What are you thinking you want to go to ziyarah? Have you heard this? You want to go to Hajj too soon? You want to wear the hijab? You need to get married. The first obstacle is their parents. The Prophet says, I feel sorry for the children of the latter days because they're victimized by none other than their parents. Get society. And so in these times, my dear brothers and sisters, what do we do? Abu Dhar is a great companion of Muslims. Last night, I didn't mention this hadith, although I wanted to, but we didn't have time. The hadith said that Abu Dhar, whenever he saw Imam Hassan as a child, he would drop to the ground on the sand and kiss Imam Hassan's feet. So they would say to him, Ya Abada, what are you doing? You're an old man. Your beard is all green. You're a companion of Rasulullah. You're busy with this child. He would say to them, Wallah, لو سمعتم ما سمعته من رسول الله لصنعتم كما أصنع. Had you heard what I had heard from Rasulullah about this young boy, you would have done the exact same. Al-Hasan wal-Hussein bayhanataya min al-Jannah. Hasan and Hussein are the two flowers that Allah has given me from paradise. Imagine if someone planted a beautiful garden, and he said that this garden, this park, is open to everyone. Anyone can come and enjoy the splendid beauty of these flowers and these plants. But this garden is actually dedicated to this person. Imagine a king does this and says that this person, I love him so much that even though I've opened this park up for everyone, it's dedicated to this. Then he picks two flowers from this garden and gives the flowers to that individual whom he loves so much. These flowers, how special do they have to be? Imam Hassan said, "Rayhanataya min al-Jannah." Paradise was created for Muhammad al-Arab. So, how is that related? You've all heard this hadith. I want you to link this hadith to our previous discussion. He says, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يقول. Holy prophets, God's peace and blessings be upon him and his family, say, مثل أهل بيتي فيكم مثل سفينة نوح من ركب فيها نجا ومن تخلف عنها غرق وهوى. The example of my family is like the ark of Noah. Whoever boards it finds salvation, and whoever fails to board it will surely perish and be destroyed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the ark of Noah for his people and the ones that believed in him so that they could survive. What did he create for you and I? He created the earth. That whoever follows them will find salvation. Whoever doesn't will sure be destroyed, which is why in the salawat that we recite in the holy month of Sha'ban, what do we say? We say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa alihi al-fulk al-jariyah fil lujaj al-ghamira ya'man man rakibaha wa yaghraqu man tarak. Oh Allah, send your peace and blessings upon the Holy Prophet and his family, who are what? They are the ark of salvation. Al-fulk al-jariyah, the ship that sails fil lujaj al-ghamira, in the dark and turbulent and rough waters. Whoever boards it, whoever embarks in it, will find salvation, and whoever fails to do so will be lost, because they lack that moral compass. Remember the flies buzzing over the nostrils of the cow? That's what they're like. And in ziyarah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we say the following: وَأَشْهَدُ, I bear witness, أَنَّكَ وَالْأَئِمَّةُ مِنْ وَلْدِكَ, that you and your children, the Imams from your offspring, are what? Safina. They are the ark of salvation. We've all heard once a companion by the name of Ubay ibn Ka'b sitting with the Holy Prophet. Imam al-Hussein, who was a young boy, came to Rasulullah. The Holy Prophet embraced his son and he said to him, Marhaban bizayn as-samawati wal-ardin. Welcome to the one that beautifies the heavens and the earth. Ubay ibn Ka'b said to him, Ya Rasulullah, وَكَيْفَ يَكُونُ زَيْنُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ? أحد غيرك. Aren't you the one that beautifies the heavens and the earth? Someone else. I said, obey. Listen to what I have to say. وَالَّذِي بَعَثَنِي بِالْحَقِّ نَبِيًّا. I swear by the one who sent me as a prophet and a messenger. Al-Husayn, Sayyid al-Samawat wal-Aradeen. Hussein is the beautification of the heavens and the earth. And then he said, وَإِنَّ الْحُسَيْنِ أَكْبَرَ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ مِنْهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Hussein, in fact, is greater in the heavens than he is on the earth. Back then, maybe they found it difficult to understand this, but now we understand what the Prophet is saying. How great is Hussein on the earth today? That 1.5 billion people observe the day of Ashura as a solemn day of commemorating the tragedy of Allah. Those who have seen Ziyarah al-Rasul, where 1 billion meals are distributed in the love of faith, where tens of millions march from across the globe. I've said this before, I know a group of people who set out from their homes in Virginia in the United States with bare feet, without any shoes on. And they travel all the way across multiple continents to reach Karbala, to reach Najaf, and then walk all the way from Najaf to pay tributes and salutations to Abu Abdullah Hussein. Imam Hussein, in this day and age, some have said that the number of Imam Barkas and Husseyniyans, which are homes dedicated to Abu Abdullah and his remembrance, the number of Imam Barkas around the world exceeds 5 million. And that's not counting all the small Imam Barkas that people have in the corners of their home. All the Zarif rooms that people have where they remember the Ahlul Bayt, which is a beautiful practice in the Indian subcontinent. This doesn't include all the official houses of mourning for Abu Abdullah Hussein, number in the millions. And so when the Holy Prophet says that Hussein is greater in heaven than he is on earth, now it starts to make sense. Then Rasulullah said to Ubay ibn Ka'b, he said to him, وَإِنَّهُ لَمَكْتُوبٌ عَنْ يَمِينِ عَرْشِ اللَّهِ. When I ascended to the heavens during the Mi'raj, I saw a luminous inscription on the right side of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that said that Hussein is what? Hussein is a lantern of guidance and an ark of salvation. Really, brothers and sisters, emotions die, sentiments die. During Muharram, don't you feel a transformation? On the day of Ashura, don't you feel that all of the misconceptions that we are bombarded with, all the people that try to raise and cast doubts about this practice or that practice or Ashura or Muharram or Imam Hussein, Muharram comes and it sweeps all of this up like the flood of Noah, destroys all of these doubters and all of these imposters and all of these liars. Nobody listens to them anymore because Hussein is the lantern of guidance and the ark of salvation. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Allah. That reminds us of the fact that in this day and age, this time of darkness and confusion, we're not loving. He says, أَمَا اللَّهِ لَيَغِيبَنَّ عَنْكُمْ صَاحِبُ هَذَا. By God, your sahib, true sahib, your master, your savior, he will go into occupation. The reason I chose this topic was because today was Friday, the time in which we are supposed to remember the Imam, if not every day, at the very least on Friday. We expect your return to happen on a Friday. This is your day. The Imam said that your master, your sahib, will go into occupation. So much so, the confusion will be so dark. حتى يقال ما تأوهل بأي واد سد. They'll say, oh, he's long died. How can someone live this long? You know these petty, childish, sophomoric questions that we're sometimes asked? As if the Quran doesn't exist. As if the story of Noah doesn't exist. As if the story of Isa doesn't exist. How can you live this long? Really? Have you read the Quran? حتى يقال مات أو هلك. He has died or he has perished. بأي واد سلف? Where is he? Why don't we see him? This clown comes and gives himself the title of Grand Ayatollah. You see, this is part of the confusion, brothers and sisters. The confusion is that it's not, as I said before, Shaitan, one of the skills that he has mastered is that he doesn't appear to you and I with horns and fire being blown out of his nose and hooves and things like that. You know, the cartoonish depiction of Shaitan. He doesn't come to you like that. He comes to you in a manner that is appealing to you. He deceives you by appearing as though he actually cares about you. He's not trying to hurt you. He's not trying to harm you. He's trying to help you. He's giving you, he's lending you his hand. And so we're not strangers to imposters that appear in the garb of scholars, but in fact represent none other than Shaitan himself. This is something that it happened during the times of the Imams themselves. The Imams would often curse individuals that used to be their companions. They would say, don't follow them. لعن الله أبو الخطاب. The person who at least pretended like he was Shia of the Ahlul Bayt, but slowly he developed his own cult and began to deceive the masses. And so the Imams had to take a stand. And then after the Imams, Abi Hamza al-Batai, again, these people who were and liars, and the Imams had to put a stop to their deviation and to their deception. So we're not strangers to this. You have someone who gives himself the title of Grand Ayatollah can also come out and cast doubt in the 12th Imam and say, what does the Imam do? SubhanAllah, he's from my native city, from holy city of Karbala. Of course, now he's lost all of his credibility. He's been completely destroyed because grand scholars did what they're supposed to. As the Imams have said, confusion sets, a scholar is supposed to raise his voice and speak out and present people with the correct knowledge. Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Wahid Farazani, Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Safi Al-Faigani, the late scholar, may Allah bless his soul, they came out and issued statements saying this person, his beliefs are not Shia. He can call himself whatever he wants. We don't have a problem. He can say, you know, I'm Sunni, Mahdi, Baha'i, Zoroastrian, whatever you want. You're free to pick whatever title you want for yourself. But a Shia, you are not. If you claim that the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt were never divinely appointed, with all due respect, you're not a Shia. You're not a 12-verse Shia Imam. If you claim that Imam al-Zaman does not exist, I don't care what, I'll treat you as a fellow human being, right? And not yeah, you're another human being among 8 billion of them. To actually come to me and say, I want to sit on this sacred pulpit and I want to preach to individuals who subscribe to the Ahlul Bayt school, and I want to misguide them and I want to deviate them. No, thank you. Stand by the door. So this person came and he started giving classes, and in some of those classes he began to cast doubt and say things like, the 12th Imam, what's he doing? Is he praying nonstop? In a demeaning and derogatory manner, a disrespectful way. What's he doing? Praying nonstop? Is that what he's doing? Where is he? How come nobody's seen him yet? SubhanAllah. Again, have you not read the Quran? Have you not read about the story of Yusuf and his brothers who came to him, they met him, they sat down with him, but they didn't recognize him? The Imam steps on your carpets, the hadith. You don't recognize him, but it doesn't mean that he's not there. Musa and Khidr, all of these stories you've never read. So the Imam says that you will confront these dark kinds of confusion. Then he says that you have to embark on the ship of salvation. Then he says, he said, listen, again, this is to give you moral support. Our faith is clearer than the sun in the middle of the day. If you are looking for the truth, you'll find it. Don't worry. Our religion is clear. Our path is clear. You just have to be careful when it gets dark. When the seas get rough, make sure you're not stranded on a tiny boat in the middle of the ocean. Make sure you board this ark. Make sure you find your salvation. In another hadith, and this is critical, brothers and sisters, I want you all to remember this if you haven't already. Someone comes to the sixth Imam and he says to him, a person by the name of Abdullah ibn Sinan, he comes to him and the Imam speaks to him about the latter days, about the confusion. So he said to him, what do we do? And those times, the Imam said, alaykum bi-du'a al-gharib. I'll teach you a dua. I want you to recite this dua as often as you can. In your qunut, after your salah and the ta'qibat, on the nights of Qadr that are coming up, recite the dua constantly. He said, what is the dua? The Imam said, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Abdullah ibn Salam repeated the dua to the Imam, but he made a mistake. He added something. He said, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub wal absar, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. The Imam said to him, Ya Abdullah, Allah is the one who turns the heart and the eyes. This is true, but read the dua as I have taught you. O one who turns the hearts, make my heart firm on your religion. Why does the Imam say this? Because brothers and sisters, du'as and remembrances and dhikrs and so on and so forth are like keys. The slightest adjustment to the key, and it won't open the lock. You have to be very deliberate and specific. It's like a phone number. It's like a bank number, a bank account number. If you add one number or subtract one number, there's no problem when you're reciting dua. When you get to the bit where you say Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, you say it 10 times. There's no problem there. The problem is it's that lock which you won't be able to open. Say it as it was prescribed, just like a doctor's script. Say it exactly how it was given to you by the Imams. And so the Imam said to him, read this dua. Again, let's read it together. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub. Imam says what Nuh said to his son. Ya Bunay, oh my son, this is a call from the Imam to all of us. Ya Bunay, irkab ma'a. As he said, the Imam is our father. Al-Imam al-Anis al-Shafiq wal-Ab al-Rafiq. Imam al-Rida describes the Imam in these beautiful words. Because the Imam is the companion that gives you solace when you're all alone. If the whole world abandons, if you are mistreated by everyone around you, remember that your Imam is there. He's your companion. He's your friend. The Imam, he's the companion who truly cares for you. وَالْأَوْلِ شَفِيق وَالْأَخُ الشَّفِيق. He's a father that loves you and cares for you. He's your brother from the same set of parents, Allah. This is your Imam. And so, when the Imam calls out, Ya Bunayya Irkab, let's answer this call. Those of us who are drowning in confusion and sin, turn to your Imam. Those of us who are overwhelmed with worldly problems, whether it's death or disease or problems with others, turn to your Imam. Recite Ziyarat al-Masjid. Recite Dua al-Arab. Find a way to connect to your Imam. At least on Fridays, I know a group of people who live in a Western country. So, just like here, Saturdays and Sundays are their weekend. And yet, every Friday morning after Fajr, they find a hilltop to climb up to and recite Dua al-Najm. Remember their Imams. Because when you remember him, what happens? When you say salam to a Muslim, what is their obligation in return? Respond to your salam, right? When you visit the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt in Ibn al-Dukhul, what do you say? أشهد أنك تسمع كلامي وترى مقامي وترد سلامي. I bear witness that you see me standing here at your doors. I bear witness that you hear me speak to you. And I bear witness that you respond to my salam. When you say salam to a normal, regular, boilerplate Muslim, their obligation is to say salam back to you. Imagine when you say salam to the Imam. Does he not respond? When you remember him, does he not remember you? Amir al-Mu'mineen said to that companion who was absent for a few days or a few weeks, he didn't show up to Salah. When the Imam saw him, he said to him, where have you been? I've missed you. He said, I've been sick, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. The Imam said to him, you should know that when you are sick, I get sick. When you're in pain, I am. Your Imam cares about you more than your own parents, more than you care about your own self. And so remember him, he remembers you, say salam to him, pray for him, make dua for him. Dua al-Faraj that we recited at the beginning of the majlis that you have grown accustomed to reciting after every majlis is what exactly? It's a dua for the Imam. It's not even about asking the Imam to bring about relief and faraj. No, it's for him. So imagine if you prayed all year long and you've recited Dua al-Faraj, whether it's this Dua or the other famous Dua al-Faraj, Allahumma azam al-bala wa bari' al-khatar. If you have recited these prayers all year long, you think the Imam is not going to pray for you on Laylatul Qadr? Hasha wa kalima. Hasha wa kalima. He will pray for you. So turn to the Imam. Some scholars say, when Imam Zaman says, أكثر الدعاء بتعجيل الفرج فإن ذلك فرجكم, make sure you pray for faraj and relief and for the Imam of the time. For in that exists your own relief. They say what this means is whenever you're in trouble, pray for him. You're in the hospital, you have a loved one who is sick, and you don't know whether they're going to survive or not. Instead of praying for them, pray for imams. You have a financial difficulty that you're going through, pray for imams. You have a test that's coming up, and you don't know how well you can do that test, pray for imams. You're looking for a spouse that's going to complete your religion and help you flourish spiritually, pray for imams. Your community is going through a trial and a tribulation, pray for imams. The more you pray for him, the more he will pray for you. Finally, I will wrap up with this, and I do apologize for the time I have taken, but discussions around Imam Zaman are really sweet. Again, I apologize. It's critical, brothers and sisters, that we recognize that in the era of occultation, the Imams themselves have appointed scholars as the captains to the ship of salvation. In one hadith, Imam Sadiq said about his son, Imam al-Kadhib, he says the following: أَنْتُمُ السَّفِينَةُ وَهَذَا مَنْ لَاحُ. You are the ship, and this is its captain. In another hadith, Imam al-Sadiq is approached by Abdullah ibn Zurara. We mentioned Zurara ibn A'yan. His son was once sent to Imam al-Sadiq because Zurara heard that Imam al-Sadiq was cursing. Imagine, the companion of Imam al-Sadiq was being cursed by him. So he was too shy. He sent his son Abdullah to go and ask the Imam, have I done something? Have I made a mistake? The Imam said to him, Ya Abdullah, don't worry. The reason I cursed your father was to break that ship the same way Philip broke the ship of those sailors. The ship was perfect. There was nothing wrong with the ship. But he broke it and he drilled a hole in it so that this oppressive tyrant wouldn't usurp it, wouldn't confiscate. And so I did this to your father so that people wouldn't see him as someone who was close to me. Because those who were close to the Ahlul Bayt were being persecuted. So I was only trying to save him from the wrath of the tyrants. Otherwise, he said to Zurara's son, he said, فَإِنَّكَ, tell your father, وَاللَّهِ أَحَبُّ النَّاسِ إِلَيْهِ. By God, you are the most beloved of people to my heart. وَأَحَبُّ أَصْحَابِ أَبِي حَيًّا وَمَيِّتًا. In fact, he is the most beloved companion of my father, Imam al-Baqir, among the living and the dead. وَإِنَّكَ أَفْضَلُ السُّفُنِ عَلَيْكَ الْبَحْرِ. Again, this is the key statement. You are among the best arts of that speed. Who? Not the Imam, Surah. And so in these times, brothers and sisters, cling on to righteous scholars. Hold on to the guidance of our esteemed Maraj. Those who are guided, those who are godly, those who are righteous, those who are pious, the way they were described by Imam Hassan. Hold on to them, follow their guidance. And those who are in your local community, who are also righteous and pious and good. Respect them, honor them, follow their guidance, because they're the ones that connect you to the Ahlul Bayt, and the Ahlul Bayt are the ones that connect you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're looking for guidance, turn to them. That's what Hur did. Hur suddenly realized that he was in the wrong battlefield. He was in the wrong camp. He rode his horse. He lowered his head. He approached Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. When he reached him, the first words out of his mouth were these. He said to him, Ya Abu Abdullah, hal li min tawbah? Is there a path back for me? Can I repent? The Imam said to him, Man ant? Raise your head high, O Hur. Who are you? He said, he didn't mention his name. He described his actions. He said, أَنَا الَّذِي جَعْجَعْتُ بِكَ فِي هَذَا الْمَكَانِ. Ya Abu Abdullah, I am the one who blocked your path to Kufa. I am the one who instilled fear in the hearts of Zainab and the women and the children. I am the one who caused this calamity to come to you. I am Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Is there a chance for me to repent? Abu Abdullah Hussein, with merciful heart, he said to him in Tuqtata, Allahu alayhi, na'am, of course. If you repent to Allah, Allah will forgive you. Come off your horse, sit the bark, and one of us. He said to him, Ya Abu Abdullah, I am a better fighter while riding on my horse than I am on my foot. And because I was the first person to block you and to entrap you, I wish to be the first person to die for you. Would you give me permission to go and fight them now? Imam al-Hussein said to him, do whatever you see fit. He went back to the camp of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, and he began to admonish them, to counsel them, to tell them, what are you doing? This is the grandson of Rasulullah. How could you do this to him? They wouldn't listen to him, so he unsheathed his sword. He began to fight them with valor and courage until he fell to the ground. As soon as he fell, he called out, Sayyidi ya Abu Abdullah, oh my master, ya Allah, No, save me. The Imam rushed to him with some other companions. He reached him, the Imam held his head. He began wiping the sand off of his cheeks. Then he said to him, هنيئا لك يا حر هذه الشهادة. Glad tidings, congratulations to you, O Hur. The martyrdom for this and حر كما سمتك أمك. You are truly free, just as your mother called you. Imam al-Hussein rushed to Hur in order to comfort him. It was only a matter of a few hours after that your master and your Imam وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. With these broken hearts and tearful eyes, let us send our salams to Abu Abdullah Hussein. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني بزيارتكم. السلام عليكم. وعلى العباس وأخته الحفيدة زينب الكبرى. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه ومقوية سلطانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات for the hastening of the reappearance of our Master. نهدي لهم جميعا ثواب السورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.